Hi, are you passionate about supporting independent media and social events? Voice of Freedom is dedicated to bringing you the latest happenings and things that matter. But we can't do it without your help. By donating, sponsoring, or becoming a member, you're not just supporting our mission. You're joining a community that values transparency and engagement. Your contributions allow us to continue producing high-quality content that informs and inspires. Visit vofhq.com to make a donation or explore sponsorship or membership opportunities. You can even donate using crypto. Together, we can amplify voices that deserve to be heard as we continue to create a vibrant platform for social change. Go to vofhq.com, help us to help you by joining us and making a difference today.
Do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
This is what victory feels like. And this was no ordinary victory. This was a fork in the road of human civilization.
Well, g'day folks, how are you? Hope you're having a very, very nice Friday night, and we are having a very nice Friday night in a secluded location just outside of Canberra, where we are in the final planning phases for what we hope will be a very significant day tomorrow. And now, significant not because of the numbers of people that will turn up, but significant because of the content of the information that will be delivered. And sitting with me right now is Peter Horton from the Corruption Whistleblower. If you haven't come across the Corruption Whistleblower in newspaper form yet, please go to corruptionwhistleblower.com and download the latest version. There are 3 current editions. The 4th is a little while away yet. These are essentially briefs of evidence, and Peter, you and your lovely other half, Donna, should be congratulated for the massive amount of work that you've done putting the Corruption Whistleblower together, and by extension, what's going to happen tomorrow. So we're just outside of Canberra. Tomorrow we're going to meet in a rather spectacularly named park, Magna Carta Park. And what are we going to do, mate?
Well, that's an interesting question. So tomorrow we'll be meeting at Magna Carta Park before 12 o'clock. And we're going to be running a grand jury indictment process. And for those of you who don't know what a grand jury does, a grand jury, just quickly, a grand jury is a jury of our peers that will decide whether a criminal charge is to be laid. So then, therefore, later, once that's decided, if enough people sign the forms, the participation form, then we will then write the charges out them and then summons them to the court. Now, many people have said to us, what court? What seals? Well, I'm sure many of you know that all the seals they're using in this country are fraudulent. So we have our own court seal, the people's court seal, and it'll be a public court action, and that's our last stand. And this government isn't doing or listening to anything that we've got to say, and much fraud is put upon us. And the idea is to try and get the honest police, and there are some good honest police, and there's plenty of bad ones, but get the honest police who think they're in there following the law and serving justice, to actually take a serious look at what's going on, because their masters are lying to them. And so once we can turn this thing around and get the military, hopefully, once they work out they're all working for a fraudulent government, swearing fraudulent oaths, but they don't know it, but they will after we run this indictment process tomorrow and see the evidence that we're clearly going to outline. We've got to turn the policeman's gun away from us and turn it onto them, because we don't have any guns and we don't have the forces behind us. So if we can convince the police to be on our side and realise that their masters are full-blown criminals, making them be criminals and making us, we the people who are the victims, but we're their bosses. This is the issue.
So I'll ask Vince to bring up the document. We've got a couple of documents we're going to go through tonight. The first of the documents is the People's Court Grand Jury Indictment. This is the summary of evidence. Now, I've had many phone calls from people who are concerned about how evidence is put together, who's provided the evidence, how's it going to be presented, is it even lawful, and what court are we going to do it in? You've explained the court. Can you now explain some of the evidence for us? So as we wait to get to the next page, I think, Vince, that would be great. Yeah, exhibit page. So can we start with the top? The file number is exceptionally important, is it not?
That's correct. So it's a grand jury indictment, and it's got the date and the month and the year on it, because this is this is the first court, and there'll be many courts after this, because we've got 268 people charged in here, or not charged, my apologies, ready to indict. I shouldn't have said that, so I retract that statement, but ready to indict, and the evidence is all in here. So we're going to work through the evidence so you can see what it is, and you can see there's no way out. There is literally no way out for them. And like I said to you earlier, we need the police to be on our side and stop making us the victims and stop making them themselves the criminals, because unfortunately they are. They are acting as criminals, but many of them don't know it. The sergeants and above, we say they do know it, and the higher ranks definitely know it. But the constables, they don't know it, unless obviously they're part of some occult where they know.
Yeah.
So if we could move on to the page number 3. So here we've basically got a summary. I'm not going to read through it. With the documents on the site, you guys can read it, but it outlines, you know, the introduction, the basis of the jurisdiction. Now, on that jurisdiction, as we proceed through the document, you're going to see that in the Criminal Code Act 1995, with that fraudulent kangaroo and emu on it, so it has no crown seal, at section 268.12, which is crimes against humanity, and there are many sections in there. And allegedly, John Howard got some sort of award from the Queen for putting that in there. I don't know how, but if it was to be operated correctly, it'd be fine, because we'd have all these people in the International Criminal Court by now, and they'd all be have deep problems. But at section 121 and 122, it allows the Attorney General to have to agree for those submissions. That's why nobody can get any in there.
Yeah, let's just make that clear. If I or you were to write a complaint against somebody here to the ICC, the International Criminal Courts, they will receive it. They will not read it. They will notify the Australian government that they have received a complaint, send that complaint to Dreyfus, the Attorney General, who then has to give it the tick of approval to go back to the ICC to be heard. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. God. Now, and section 122 of section 268 allows for, or doesn't allow for, any appeal. So he's got the ultimate arbitrary decision to say whether those crimes against humanity are to be reported to the ICC. So what we've done in this document, as you see, as we proceed forward, we destroy the seals first. And so what we're going to do with this brief of evidence, and all the people that take part in the grand jury indictment process, either online or those who are brave enough, or not necessarily brave enough, but staunch enough to come down and take part. It will be happening right next door to Magna Carta Place, but you can take part by the link that's be provided on this web page. But however, if we can proceed to the next page 4 of the document.
We've got a bit of a delay here, folks. We might be having some dropouts occasionally. We are in a very remote location. We're running Starlink, but there are many people on it. So we might have the odd dropout, so bear with us with that. I should also point out that the documents that we are going through are now available on the VOFHQ website. So if you want to download your own copy of these, or just bring them up on a screen and go through them with us, feel free to go and download them now, or after the show, go and get them. And this is a participation document, so If you download them, there are areas where you can decide if you wish to be involved, as Peter was alluding to. So this is where you sign up. Sorry, mate. Keep
No,
going.
you're right. So this form we're actually going through is the evidence document, but there will be another form available for you to participate electronically. So, however, this page here basically just explains what a grand jury is, what an indictment is, and how that sort of works. And we've got our newspapers up there because these are the 3 briefs of evidence, but these are supplementary evidence to what's actually in this document. So we just thought we'd put that there for anybody that wanted to have a look at those. And we'll proceed to the next page now, to the vital and critical evidence, which is page number 5. So if we go down to the bottom of that page, we've got section 128 of the Constitution. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Constitution, but we've got nowhere to go but to get to be under that law for the time being until we can get hold of this Parliament and then hold referendums to change it, because it's an act of the United Kingdom and it really has got a lot of flaws in it that have allowed them to do these things to us. But if we don't go under it, the country's going to be in free fall once we start disclosing this type of information, that they're all basically absolutely, I won't call them names, but absolutely not following true law at all, period. They're not even following their own acts with the kangaroo and emu on it, which we know that the kangaroo emus are fraud. So we'll just work at 128 of the Constitution, and it clearly says the proposed law for alteration thereof must be passed by an absolute majority of each house of the Parliament, and not less than 2 nor more than 6 months after its passage through both houses, the proposed laws be submitted to each state, to the electors qualified to vote for the election of the members of the House of Representatives. That means any major law must go through us. So that's period. That's the starting foundation of the law, of their law, of the Constitution, which has been operating in this country since 1900. And I know there's many people that don't like it and want it gone, but we need to have a process to get rid of it. Otherwise, we've already got anarchy here by them, but we'll have another form of anarchy if we don't have everybody voting correctly, and we cannot.
And understanding what they're voting for.
Correct. Because in this Constitution, one of the main problems I've been saying to people, not mad Constitution, but the Constitutional enthusiasts, is with Section 128 was to make sure this country stays honest. Why didn't they have a penalty there for overriding it? Clearly not in another book where you have to go searching for it, and not only that, clearly taught in schools, and a referendum every 10 years to keep it in force. So we've all got a contract with it, and we know what it is, but they're not teaching it. There's no sections in there to teach it. So it clearly needs amending and then gotten rid of. Well, that's just my personal opinion, but that'll be for an assembly to vote on and the public to vote on.
Moving on to the next page.
Yep. So we're now.
This is a very interesting page, folks. Listen closely.
So in 1960, and we're talking about page number 6 here of the document, we've clearly got 2 seals, the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia and the Great Seal of Australia. Now, there was no law or anything, or no referendum or anything to change those seals. The Great Seal of Australia is under the Queen of Australia in 1960. So Rob Cullerton, interestingly enough, sent a Freedom of Information request to the Attorney General, requesting the instrument that overrides, suspends or terminates the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia and the indissoluble federal Commonwealth under the Crown of the United Kingdom, as qualified in the Constitution, was lodged to the Attorney General Department of the Freedom of Information, who responded with, pursuant to Section 24A of the Freedom of Information Act, because they don't have the documents. So they basically, 24A says they can't comply with the request, so they're not going to send you anything. So because they don't have them, there are no documents. So it's basically telling you that there's been no law here since 1960, because it was taken over by tyrants even back then, and it's just gotten worse ever since. So the question is, how and where do the police and the judiciary and the politicians, the local councils, and evil child protection, who are claiming to have authority in this country, actually get their authority from? This is the big question. So it starts in 1960, and you can see that evidence on that page there. So if you want to download the document and have a good read of it, It really is. It's a knockout document.
Yeah.
They cannot get out of this thing. They're going to wiggle and squirm, and this is why we're having the grand jury indictment, because no one's ever run an indictment against them because the courts won't hear it. They just kick it out. But it's time for the people to stand strong, stand together, unite, and we'll be able to do something, because they cannot stop numbers, and people are waking up in their droves. So if we can go to the next page, please, page 7. We've got this seal, the Great Seal of Australia. Now, that was sent to Quinton Bryce, and to ask her if that seal was above her office. Now, we've already seen on the other page that it was done without a referendum. It was done without asking anybody. So they're basically removing the Commonwealth. No one has ever met or seen a Queen of Australia. So one of her office staff has said that that's the seal that's above her office. So not long after that, the researcher sent it to the Garter King of Arms College, and they said the device submitted does not incorporate any royal arms. These are memorial bearings of the Commonwealth of Australia. Her Majesty is described as the Queen of Australia on the seal, and not the Queen of the United Kingdom. And this is the whole problem, that they have taken over our laws by the private political parties, which is the Australian government's basically a foreign government of political subdivision ruling over us with the power of McDonald's, because the people won't wake up. And the time's coming, and I believe they would have to be worried, because the amount we've sent them potentially, 1 trillion words, probably exaggerating here, but, billions of words on paper, but nothing happens. So the time is, they're waiting for us. The overseas countries are waiting. They know. In America, they've been standing on the White House saying they feel sorry for Australians because we've got no law here. But it's only continuing on because of the 40% that know but don't do anything. The 40% who have no idea. You got the 10% freedom fighters, which are the guys who are on this channel, and the men and women are on this channel. Sorry, women. I didn't mean to leave you out, but I know they are very important.
Very important.
Very critically important. And then you've got the 10%, the evil people that are running this country. So we only have to wake up a few more, and it's our duty to wake up the unawakened. And
this document will help you do that.
Absolutely.
You put this document down on your coffee table and have a discussion when the girls or the boys come around for a coffee or a beer. You're going to educate some people, and you don't have to do it. You just have to say, "Oh, well, I read this today and I found this a bit interesting. Did you know this about the seal and the other evidence that's being provided?" It's a great tool to help wake more people up, Peter. Sorry, keep going.
No, that's okay. No, it's not a hard read.
No,
there's a
not at all.
lot of pictures in here. So we can proceed to the next page, which is page number 8. And here we got the infamous Royal Styles and Titles Act 1973, Act number 114, and Elizabeth R has signed it up the top. Well, that's not Queen Elizabeth, and it's got no crown seals on it. So this is when basically the kangaroo and emu fraudulent with the Roman reef seal really came into its own here in this country. But if we look down a little bit further, you can see where the arrows are pointing. They've omitted the word Commonwealth, so it'll say, and whereas the government of Australia considered it desirable to propose to Her Majesty to change the form of the royal styles and titles to be used in relation to Australia and its territories. But where's the word Commonwealth? And this is where all the words of the Commonwealth really started to go into second gear and be omitted from all the different types of acts.
Right.
So, and if we go down the bottom, it says, be it therefore enacted by the Queen, the Senate, and the House of Representatives of Australia. Well, it's not just Australia in the House of Representatives, it's the government of the Commonwealth of Australia. So people the unawakened need to get their heads around that the government of the Commonwealth of Australia is not the government, the Australian government with an ABN number registered in Washington, D.C. There's two distinctive differences.
Yeah.
And when you remove the word Commonwealth, you remove public welfare general good. So, and this is what's been happening in this country since 1973. So if we can now proceed to the next page, page number 9. It's a little bit difficult here to read here. Because the ink was always faded. We didn't want to modify the document, but it is clear enough for those people if you want to print the document to have a look. So where it's underlined in red in pencil there, it says the word purported. So Paul Haslock has signed it, but he's crossed out the words, "In the name of Her Majesty, I assent to this act." It's got a blue line through it. So then, who did he purportedly enact this act for? And further down, you can see the word purported law. Purported law meaning appearing or stated to be true, though not necessarily so. Alleged, the purported marriage was void. That's what's in the Oxford Dictionary. So this is only a purported act. There's no referendum for it. So if we can now proceed to the next page, page number 10, we start to detail about the Queen of Australia fraud and treason on the people. So I'll let you guys read that. I don't want to go too far into depth in that because you need to read and learn yourselves. But it's about Queen of Australia. And if we go down to about 3/4 of down the page in blue, it says the Australian government officialdom oath to their abstract, fraudulent, unlawful Queen of Australia. And there's a link there. So we've condensed the video together with videos of all the prime ministers, not all of them, but just enough of them for everybody to get their idea of they're swearing allegiance to Queen of Australia, but there's no referendum. And I've fought these arguments in court for quite a number of years. The judiciary run over you and say, oh, they agree with you in principle, and then come back later and say, nah, that's rubbish. You don't know what you're talking about, or whatever's going on there. They are just full-blown criminals.
Just to be clear, who is the Queen of Australia?
Well, no one knows.
So this bag could be the Queen of Australia.
Well, it could be, but in actual fact, Queen of Australia is writing on a piece of paper, so it cannot be a head of power. They are simply words. They are nothing else. There's no living queen. There's no nothing. It's basically just one big fat fraud.
And how does this relate now that we don't have a queen, we have a king? No change, just a change of...
Well, there's no Royal Styles and Titles Act for a King of Australia. There's one written by the Australian government, but that's not our government. We don't hold any shares in the Australian government. We've all got one single share in the government of the Commonwealth of Australia to vote for laws for living people, but they've corporatised us. The corporations have taken over, and the Australian government takes its orders from the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. How on earth are they passing laws for our country of we the people? We make the laws up in this country, and they are there to administer them.
Yep.
But at the moment, they're administering laws that they make up in Parliament and don't put to us. So here we're going to come over to the next page to some really critical evidence, because there's been quite a bit of argument. We can't really see that up there. That's not an important page, but it's basically the cover to the book for the final report of the Constitutional Commission. Yep, that one there. Sorry, you can't read it on the screen, but if you print it out, you'll be able to read it. It is faint, it's hard to get. So that's the final report of the Constitutional Commission of 1988, Volume 2. And it was very interesting what was found in there. So as I said to you, there's no referendum for Queen of Australia, and we're going to work through the referendum dates and results in a moment. So if we can flick over to the next page, to page number 12, we see the Constitutional Commission of 1988. It's all signed off by numerous QCs, and that's just the evidence to say that it's been signed off. But if we proceed to the next page, page 13, and you can read the underlined sections. So basically it says here, this is a bill that was made up in 1988 to attempt to provide to the government or the Australian government that they have to have a referendum to recorrect the Constitution. So be it enacted by the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia with the approval of the electors as required by the Constitution as follows. Title number 1. This Act may be cited as the Constitution Alteration Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1988. So in 1988, they're still trying to get an elector's consent for the Queen of Australia. So in section 2, omissions of enacting words. Be it therefore enacted by the Queen's most excellent majesty, and that is her correct title, most excellent majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Lords Spiritual and Temporal and Commons in this present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. So there was no referendum for that. So you can look at the referendum dates and results, and it was never passed. These are acts that they were told that they needed because the Constitutional Commission realised that the country was in a free fall. There's no law here. They knew it, and they had to make it constitutional again.
Yeah.
So, and also if we go down a bit further in an act to extend to the Queen's successors, Section 3, Section 4 and Section 5 weren't passed by the electors. It's as simple as that. So if we go to the next page, we've got the second bill that the Constitutional Commission of 1988 created and wanted to put to the electors. And the bill number 2 says, an act to alter the Constitution so as to require the senators and members of the House of Representatives to take oaths or affirmations of allegiance to the Queen of Australia. And then under there it says, be enacted by the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia with the approval of the electors and reported and required by the Constitution as follows. But they didn't do it. So in 1988, they're still trying to get a referendum for the Queen of Australia. And these fraudsters, and I will call them fraudsters because they are committing fraud when they swear an oath in the Parliament before the alleged governor who's got an allegiance to the Queen of Australia. They're all in a little private political party team of themselves, and we're not in it. Because traditionally the way the law works is the electors are up the top, the Executive Assembly is second, then you have the judiciary, and then you have the police are down the bottom. But if they flipped it up the other way around, where the Executive Parliament's up the top, the judiciary second, the police is third, and the publics, or the people, the men and women of this country, are on the bottom. We're fourth. How on earth did we get from being number 1 down to number 4? Because the people aren't paying attention. And not only that we live in a great nation, and we have the right to live our lives. We have the right to be free, but they've taken advantage of that. But now the internet's back and all this knowledge is gatherable and been able to put together. We now need to stand up and recorrect this stuff because they are absolute fraudsters. And there's no doubt about it. They're guilty of treason. They're guilty of fraud. They're guilty of nearly everything, murder, the whole lot. That's my belief. And that'll be up for the people in the grand jury to decide whether they're to be charged for those crimes. So we're now going to proceed to the next page. After hearing that critical evidence in relation to Queen of Australia, did they have the authority to even touch an Australian Act, the Australia Act 1986? It's gone. They've been kicked out of the ballpark. They've got no authority. They're a pack of fraudsters, all gaining a financial advantage by deception, dishonestly dealing in documents on every elector and subject of this country. So here we've got on this next page here, page 15, this is the Australia Act 1986. Interesting act, isn't it? So we look up the top of that, we can see that it's got the kangaroo and emu and the Roman reef again. What on earth has the Roman reef got to do with us? It's supposed to have the lion and the unicorn seal, the lion and the unicorn, the royal coat of arms, until the electors decide otherwise. And I think it was going to come to the point anyway in this country that we really should have potentially a president. We don't want to be governed by England or, the Queen, who has totally disregarded us. And so for me, she's untrustworthy was untrustworthy, and so is the King. But getting back to the fact, there's no legitimate Royal Styles and Titles Act for the King of Australia.
And another point of evidence is that any new coin bearing King Charles' likeness has no crown on it.
That's correct. So if we have a look at this page number 16 again, please, you can see the arrows pointed down here, and you can see at section 5, it says Commonwealth Constitution, Constitution Act, and Statute of Westminster not affected. Well, if it's not affected, where's the referendum? Now, we can go down to section 14 and 15, which both say amendment of the Constitution of Queensland and amendment of the Constitution of Western Australia. They both require state referendums and double entrench referendums, because those two states have double entrenchment acts, which means that you cannot touch that constitution without asking the electors. But they've passed it, and we're living under it, and we're going to see that evidence as we further we go. So we're just moving from one fraud to the next fraud. So we had to put the entire Australia Act in this document because it's a brief of evidence. We don't necessarily want to go through the whole thing tonight because it's unlawful anyway. But I just want to draw everybody to one attention to on the top of page 17, where it says, we can just go back there a little bit. I'm going to point out something that, right. So what does it say? It says an act to bring constitutional arrangements affecting the Commonwealth and the states into conformity with the status of the Commonwealth of Australia as a sovereign, independent and federal nation. Now, how many dumb coppers have we seen, because they're following orders, but following orders won't release you from what you criminally did, persecute and punish people for saying that they're sovereign citizens and outright call them sovereign citizens. But hang on, under this act, this is how stupid they are. Under this act, it says we're all sovereign citizens, because it's telling you here, even though that there's no referendum for it, they're operating under that act, but yet persecute the people, smash their windows, beat them up, throw them on the handcuffs on the ground, smash into them, do all sorts of heinous crimes to them because they're following the orders of their stupid bosses, their criminal bosses, but yet they've really got to take a good, long, hard look at themselves and look at this brief of evidence to see what they're doing is actual crime. It's crime. The police have become criminals, but because they're following their criminal masters. So I just wanted to point that fact out for all the people who've been accused, because they've called the sovereign citizens terrorists. But under their own act, we're all sovereign citizens. It's just nonsensical. So if we can proceed through the Australia Act because most of it's just jargon and nonsensical stuff, because they didn't have the right to put it in without a referendum. But we're going to move to that shortly. So if we can move to page number 24, please. Yep, that page there. So if we look at the Australia Act up the top, it's got a memorial seal on it. On the right-hand side, it's got a memorial seal. Now, though, the memorial seal is not for sealing acts. And if you can see next to it, you've got the black kangaroo and emu there. And that's also a fraudulent seal, because there's no black kangaroos and emu. So if we move down the bottom of that page there, we can see the evidence. So in the Supreme Court, which is a court case I ran personally, I was battered around by the Supreme Courts and Magistrates Court for a long time, and it took me a while to work it out. So if you actually take the time to read the Supreme Court transcript down there, I actually was able to maneuver, luckily, sort of a little bit by fluke, but I had done my homework and had been punished by them in these courts, that I got Justice Livesey to say, we now know the double entrenchment referendum at a minimum of Western Australia and Queensland were omitted. And His Honour says yes. And then Mr. Horton, you can see here. So that means the Australia Act's finished. And His Honour says yes. Now, that was back in 2000, I think. Yeah, May 2000. But yet they continue on, because I'm only one man. And it's a lot of people are awake up to this stuff now, especially since COVID. And we all need to wake up that there's no law in this nation that's valid. There's legal things that are part of private constitution, which are part of corporations, but there's no actual fundamentally correct law. So we can now proceed to page number 25. So 25. We can just go down a little bit, please. Sorry, up. My apologies, up to you. Yep. Can we just go up and have a look and see where it says the Constitution? So that's their private political party's Constitution seal with the kangaroo and emu on it. Because if we're using Crown law in the courts, and the solicitor says, "Oh, yeah, what does the Crown have to say?" They're lying to everybody. That's why we don't really see many police officers that I've seen in there acting for the Crown anymore, because they can't. They're all solicitors, and the solicitors are lying to everybody, and so are the judges. Because in 1986, the letters patent of Crown Queen Victoria were removed, and they were replaced by Bob Hawke's. And then when John Howard came into power, he had his own letters patent, which are not of the Crown. And then Kevin Rudd, his letters patent. And I've actually got copies of those, but we don't need these. We don't need to make this proof of evidence that large. We just tried to keep it small and deadly. So this Constitution, what does it say? It says the Constitution. But does it say a Constitution Act? No, because everything's a play on words. Everything has a constitution. A glass has a constitution. It says it's round. It's constitutional glass would be it's round. It's made of glass. It holds material. So everything, the table has a constitution made of wood, nails, and it's built by a carpenter. So they've got their own private political party's constitution. But what is it under? Encircled in red, the Australia Act, but no referendum for it. And we're going to prove that it's got no referendum as we proceed forward in a minute in these documents. And let's not forget, in 1999, we voted all this stuff out. So if we can now proceed to the next page, which is page number 26, my apologies. So here we can see where they're registered in Washington, D.C. under what? Not the government of the Commonwealth of Australia, but just the words Commonwealth of Australia. And like I said, the whole thing's a play on words. Because if they were wanting to be trading overseas and pay their debts through overseas corporations or whatever, it would be the government of the Commonwealth of Australia, not just Commonwealth of Australia. It's all a play on words. So we can proceed to the next page. It's page number 27. So here we've got the outline criminally ignored and omitted referendums evidence.
No, we don't seem to have the right page up. There we go.
There we go. So everybody can clearly see from the evidence that I've just put forward. 1973, no referendums. 1988 or 1986 Australia Act, no referendum. And remember Section 118, where we went through right in the beginning, must be put before the electors, must be approved by the electors. So we show you here on this page for your own evidence. And so it's unequivocal, it's undoubted that we've got a foreign government, a political subdivision without consent of the electors, operating, milking our assets, sending all of our money overseas for whatever profit they're making. We don't know. The whole thing needs to be audited. But we can clearly see on this form, no referendum in 1973, no referendum in 1986 for the Australia Act, no referendum after the Constitutional Commission of 1988 showed them the documents, made the documents for them, as I outlined here in this brief of evidence, to say that they're still trying to get Queen of Australia approved by the electors in 1988. Now that fraud remains today. And you can see that in the video of a few of our prime ministers and governor generals. You can even go onto YouTube and just put in there certain governor generals, and you can see them swearing allegiance to a Queen of Australia, or they swear allegiance to the people of Australia and the Commonwealth and her lands and people, and all this rubbish that's not the true oath of a prime minister. So once again, as I say to you, on this page, we can see there's no referendum in 1986. There's no referendum in 1988, even when they try to fix it, because they know that the people are going to wake up to it. So it's better to try and keep the small minority that know about it asleep, rather than wake all the sheep up and they'll all go, hang on, this has been going in 1973. I've been put in jail by criminals, by fraudsters, by fraudster judges who are just committing fraud on every single subject or man or woman that comes into the court. That's why there's no justice here. But also on this referendum evidence, you can see in 1999, we voted to remain a constitutional monarchy. which means that all these ABN numbers, the government of South Australia with its own ABN number, which is not the government of the Commonwealth of Australia. And once again, when you remove that word Commonwealth, you remove public welfare general good. Now that's the same for every single state. They've removed the Commonwealth and the public welfare general good because of the sheep that are asleep. Now we need to wake them up. We need to befriend them in a certain way, not treat them harsh because they just don't know. Some of them can't be taught. We know that. We've tried that. But just keep trying because they are men and women too that have been tricked and they've got a mind virus not to wake up for this stuff. So, like I said, you can look down at 1999. We voted 45%. We said, no, we don't want a republic. So everything is still sitting in treason. So we can now go to the next page, page number 28. And here we've got it in here, the punishment for treason. Now, it's not up to us to say we're going to punish them for treason. We're just here in the next day or so to create an indictment, and then they'll be held for trial and then file this stuff into the International Criminal Court. And I'm going to show you how we're going to attempt to do this in a moment. And we've had numerous people say to us, you know, like I want to repeat what I said before. What court? What seal? Well, there isn't any legitimate courts in this country at all, period. And there's no legitimate criminal code acts except for the ones with the lion and the unicorn on there. But definitely not the ones with the kangaroo and emu on there. That's for sure. So I'll let you guys read what the punishment for that is and what you think, because we all need to get your minds working a bit about what sort of punishment they deserve. And I'm not saying they're guilty at this point.
Now, it's got to be said, you haven't set these punishments.
No.
These are the punishments set out.
Correct.
By, Australian law.
These are from the Crimes Act 1914 to 1960, because after 1960, what they did is they started perverting the Crimes Act 1914 to 1960 to remove the death penalty for treason. So that's for you guys to look over and look. But now we want to go to the next page, which is number 29, please. So we can clearly see here now the Criminal Code Act 1995. So it's got the fraudulent kangaroo and emu on there. And you all know that now because you've seen the evidence to show that it's fraud. If it was legitimate, it'd have the lion and the unicorn on there. But at Section 268.121 and Section 268.122, they're an abomination of lawful rights for the people and has been another contribution to the current genocide and democide we find here in Australia and ourselves in, because we can't file anything into the International Criminal Court as at this point.
Yeah.
But when this gets signed by all of us, then hopefully we can wake the chief prosecutor in the International Criminal Court to show, well, this act's fraudulent, and it's run by a fraudster, Mark Dreyfus, because Section 268.121, and you can download the document and read it for yourself, in 1995 stipulates that proceedings for offences under Division 268, and there are many of them, sorry, my apologies, and there are many of them, which covers crimes against humanity, genocide and war crimes, cannot be commenced without the written consent of the Attorney General, essentially meaning the Attorney General must give permission before prosecution can begin for these serious international crimes. But hello, what does Section 268.122 say? It says it prevents the appeal, review or questioning of the Attorney General's decision. This decision is made in relation to proceedings brought under Division 268 of the Criminal Code, which covers war crimes, genocide and crimes against humanity. But the act is invalid. So we are going to collect all the participation forms, send them over and outline to the chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court what's actually going on here, especially with the Indigenous. They've been persecuted for many years, and something needs to be done about it. And there are actually a couple of other people that are trying to amend the act, but I'm not sure how that's going to go, because they know that they will all be in they will really all be in deep shit, as we all know. So we're getting to the end of the evidence brief now, and I'm not sure how many of you have seen it, but you all should have a look at this next documentary. It was done by some outstanding people. I commend them. I just say they're absolute champions. And it's called Australian Witness Statement Full Documentary Video. Now, that's in relation to the COVID. Now, I advise you all to watch it, or if any of you haven't watched it, please watch it, because it is a brief of evidence that will absolutely collapse, or has the power to collapse, the entire government, Liberal, Labor, the Greens, the whole lot of them, for being complicit whilst they remain exempt. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the MPs have an exemption from getting the COVID jab. Like, you've got to be kidding. So this evidence here in this documentary is enough to sink them on their own. Even if you forgot about everything that I'd outlined here, this is enough to sink them. But what we're hoping to do tomorrow is run the evidence that I've just run before you now, and the people can either wait and deliberate and watch this video if they need extra evidence. In my opinion, I don't need any extra evidence to create an indictment against every single last one of them. And the people can take the time to watch the video if they need any extra evidence. And then if they do want to watch that video, then they can take their time and fill out the participation form, which is also uploaded.
That's our next document, Vince. So.
Okay, yep. So we're finished with this document for the moment. I'm going to go on to the participation form for those of you who want to take part. Right, now, this first page here.
That's good.
We got it up there? Yep. Okay, great. Okay, so this first page here, page number 1, is for the grand jury indictment, and you're swearing in your oath. So you can do that from home after you've watched all the evidence tomorrow. But you have all the evidence anyhow, because I've just shown it to you that we're going to submit. Because in a grand jury indictment, we only have to prove probable cause. We don't have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. We only have to prove that there's suspicion, and I believe that I've just demonstrated to you more than enough suspicion that they've got charges they're answerable to the public. And so on this form here, you'll swear this oath if you want to participate. If we go on to the second page, page 2 of this 19-page document, so it's an indictment requisition form. So you basically put your name up the top of it, and I'm not going to read it to you, because if you want to take part, you need to read and fully comprehend what this document says. There's not much writing on here at all. It's mainly pictures of the alleged defendants. So you would just clearly put your name on top of it. It says the indictment charge list. The indictment charge list will be treason against the people, major fraud, insurrection, child abductions and child trafficking, genocide, democide, which means murder by government, crimes against humanity, perverting the course of justice, dishonestly dealing in documents. Yeah, that's right. Queen of Australia, the Australia Act, all the frauds that they do. Gaining a financial advantage by deception. Yeah, that's right. Paying themselves big money. Yeah, big money. Because the people in Parliament who were just helping them, some of them, they get $500,000 a year or $400,000 a year. That's $8,000 a week for just taking part in the administration of that. And that's for you guys to do your own research on. But we'll be presenting that evidence once we get this indictment process up. So gaining a financial advantage by deception, referendum frauds, making false oaths to Queen of Australia, slavery and torture, other crimes to be specified by the prosecution. So if we can move to the next page, number 3 of 19. It's basically the legal safeguards page, as I'll let you guys read that as well. And then we move on to the next page, which is the names and photographs of all the defendants. And we've got them all there. We don't know their addresses. We don't know their date of birth. But we have their photographs and their names, and that's all we need. So that travels on there until page
18 or thereabouts.
Yep, to page 18. So you can skip through all those, go to page 18.
Or 19 might be.
Yep, skip. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, skip to page 19.
That's it.
So, yep, there we go. So
back a bit.
On this page here, you would merely just sign your name and give you red thumbprint, and because 3 witnesses is equivalent to a justice of the peace. You would just sign that, post it to us at the address that'll be up on the webpage. It's on the flyer where to post it to, and email the electronic copy to info@corruptionwhistleblower.com. And as I said to you, what we'll be doing with those is once we've got all those collaborated, we will then be scanning all those in that haven't been scanned that are posted to us, or those who would participate down at Canberra will have to scan all those in, draft up their criminal charges. Then we'll be sending that in an application to the International Criminal Court, and we can just wait and see what happens. But after they've all been served their indictments, that only then we'll be able to make a court date, and we're hoping that'll be in March or April sometime, because there's a lot of evidence. We have to file, we have to build a brief of evidence besides this one that we've just put to you, a detailed one for each defendant. A lot of them will be generic because they all work for the Australian government. They're all officialdom. So we need to really nail down something that really is that they can't get out of, even though they can't get out of this, but I'm talking sticking to them. So they can't say, I haven't got mens rea, or I didn't act, I haven't got actus reus, like I didn't know, because they know. They know that we know, and we know that they know. So that's why we don't get any justice in any of our courts or anything, because they're doing everything to smash everybody back that files this stuff into the courts. And we know it's true. It's just that you can't get it past their crooked judicial system. So that's about all for me today. I've got to get going.
You've got 25 people here waiting to talk to you as well, so I better let you go. Thank you for taking us through that, Peter. And tomorrow, folks, if you can get to Canberra and be part of it, we'd love to have you at the picnic at Magna Carta Park at midday or before midday. Be there before midday. And I think a lot of us will be there sort of some hours before that. So pop along, come along, come and say hi. We would love to see you. And we'd love to get your involvement with this. And don't forget, this is something you can be involved with electronically, as Peter has just outlined. And we'd love for you to go to vofhq.com and download both of these documents. They'll be right there on the front page right now. Download both of these documents, review them, consider them, understand them, and then if you choose to take action, take that action. We'd love to have you as part of it, but that is a decision for you. So the best way to help yourself make a good decision is to appraise yourself of all the current information available. And I can tell you that those 2 documents on the VOFHQ website right now are so crammed full of information and fact that, as I said before, you can use this as an educational tool around your kitchen or coffee table and introduce it to your friends. It's a very, very powerful document.
Can I just say one thing before I go that I did forget to say? Now, on the participation form, don't forget to initial each page. Unfortunately, there is 19 of them, but it's critical that you initial each page. It doesn't have to be initialed by each page by all the witnesses. It's handy if you want to get them to. That's an extra. It would be nice if you did, but it's not critical.
But it is critical that you initial every page.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Very good. Well, more on that tomorrow. We'll be live streaming the event, and it will also be available through ibroadcast.au. A couple of guys come down from Brisbane, as it turns out, so we're all having a bit of a chit chat. So there'll be a couple of different streams available as well. So if one doesn't drop or doesn't work, the other will. I don't have the bonded gear that these guys have got, so they'll be grabbing all the bandwidth that's available in the area, and I'll see if I can tack on the end of it. We'll just see what happens. The goal is, though, to bring you alive from there tomorrow, even if it's just one that we chat with. Now that Vince knows how to push the buttons and carry on, and he likes to sit there in the pitch black for some strange reason.
Just a heads up, guys, it's actually if you go to the front page of the VOFHQ website and click on the whistleblower link there, it will take you to the page where the documents are. It's actually on a separate page. Okay?
Okay, beauty. Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. Go to the front page or go to vofhq.com, click on the corruption whistleblower link that's right there, and it'll take you straight to the pages where you can download these documents and review them yourself. If you have any questions, by all means, you can email them through to me, carl@vofhq.com. I'll pass them on to Peter and we'll get them answered. We might have you sit down one day again next week for those sorts of questions, if there are any.
Sure.
Or potentially, if we get them overnight, you and I can have a chat tomorrow morning while we're setting up and maybe answer a few of those questions before before proceedings really begin. So thank you, mate. I'll let you run and go and do what you've got to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Good on you, and folks, you've got no idea the work that this man and his other half, Donna, who would be sitting here with me at the moment if I wasn't so big. She just won't fit. So otherwise, I'd have her here too. The work in this document is astounding. It really is astounding. So much time and effort has gone into it, so much research. And I think you and your team should be exceptionally proud of what you've put together, mate.
You're very kind. Thank you very much.
You've done well.
We love our country.
We do. And we need more of you to love it. All right? Although you guys that watch us, you guys are pretty staunch. We understand that. And what we want you to do is convert the ones around you who aren't. That's the thing. We need more numbers. We already have pretty big numbers, we believe, around the country. Do we have enough to sway the country? No, not yet. But we don't need 26 million people. We need less than half of that. And we are halfway at least to that goal now. What we need to do is, using the evidence provided from people like Peter and the corruption whistleblower team, is to sit down and use this evidence to have people ask themselves critical questions. That's what this is about. People have been brainwashed, and you can't, just because you and I may have lost some of our brainwashing, I'm not saying any of us have lost all of it, but some of us have lost our brainwashing to a point. Doesn't mean that everybody has, nor will they understand the concept that they've been brainwashed. So sometimes maybe it's better to present a document to them and say, I read this today, and something in it, I mean, it's 32 pages long, but there was a page in it that really struck me as strange. And, do you know anything about the styles and titles? Do you know anything about the Great Seal or the changing of the Great Seal? Do you know why they did that? Do you know if they did it lawfully? This evidence sort of points to the fact that they didn't, and that changes a great deal of things. Do you know? Take it away and read it. Show it to your friends. Print it out. Leave copies around your house or leave them at the local shops. It's going to be a way to get this sort of information out to the normies who believe they know everything, including Boss Dickhead or whatever his name is, who was trolling today. If he would like to educate himself a little bit, why doesn't he go to the website and try and understand these very basic written documents? They're written in English, so he's got a head start there. He seems to be able to type it, so one assumes he can read it. Although that might be an assumption for somebody who calls himself Boss Cock, really. Very sad. A bit droll. So anyway, you know what to do, folks. And tomorrow, would love to see you. If you're in Canberra, Daniel Weir. I can't see the chat. I can't even see anything that Vince is putting up on the screen. No. Oh, no. G'day, Stu. What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say, tomorrow, we would love to see as many of you as possible. If you can't come to Canberra, that's great. We'd love to see you online. That's all. This is an online participation event as well. Right? You don't have to be in Canberra. We're not looking for 1 million people. We'll be really happy if a couple of hundred turned up, but we'll be happy if 20 of us turn up. Well, we know there'll be a lot more than 20. But this isn't a 1 million man march. We haven't ever promoted it as such. If people, and 1 million of you, want to turn up, hey, we're all up for the party. But I seriously doubt that's happening. So let's not beat around the bush. And I've mentioned the White Rabbit a couple of times in broadcast today. I'm very disappointed Nicola has gone down the road she's chosen. And I've sent her a DM. We don't really know each other. I think we may have worked in the same, well, for the same network in the same city at some time in Melbourne a while back, but I might be wrong. At any rate, I just sent her a DM that expressed my disappointment in the way that she has been pulling back from the freedom movement, the one that she has so ardently supported, and seems to be telling some furfies about events that the freedom movement in general are making. One of those events is tomorrow's event, and she has chosen to start telling you that there'll be military there, or that, you know, there's going to be problems, or there's what. I'll be flabbergasted, beyond flabbergasted, and I will send her an unmitigated apology if there is any military there tomorrow in any official presence. I suspect there will be military there, but they're not the ones that she's thinking. They will be more in line with what we think, and there will be some of those military there. But do I suspect tanks and camo uniforms barreling over the parklands to, you know, push us all out of the park or arrest us? No, I don't. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible a pink elephant could land in the park as well, I guess. But I'm disappointed that Nicola has chosen to spread what I believe is a massive amount of disinformation about the event for tomorrow to her followers. And I'm also disappointed to learn that Nicola has taken the dollar from the politicians. She's now working for Gerard Rennick, is my understanding. And of course, there are other people standing in the Senate race in Queensland, or will be standing in the Senate race in Queensland against Gerard Rennick. She is now turning her back on those people who've played a big role in helping her generate the large audience that she has. The stories that she's told about them, the interviews that she's done with them. So what was all that for? It's all starting to look a little bit controlled to me. I'm very disappointed that she would tear down the freedom movement, any freedom movement action, unless it is, you know, something that's seriously wrong. But she hasn't explained a reason or how this might be seriously wrong. She's just been told a furphy that she's telling others. And as I said to her in the DM, I don't give a hoot about who your source is. They're shit. They do not understand military laws and action. There won't be any military there tomorrow. Not unless we've happened to pick a day where they're having a parade. And I suppose they could have a parade in Magna Carta Park on the day we were there. I guess it's possible. Anything is possible. But it's highly unlikely and extremely unlikely that they would have anything like arrest powers, let alone anything else. So why is she telling this? I don't know. But then I learn of the link to Rennick. And of course, we all know that the rally tomorrow was meant to be held on the back of the Reckless Renewables rally, which was scheduled. The farmers come to town, and I basically see it as the Masonic welcome back to Canberra for the politicians, as far as I can see after last year's little sojourn. A completely controlled event from the top down. And this year, the farmers found out how controlled it is, because they offered a place to the corruption whistleblower crew, the last place in the day, 4 till 5, for them to do what they want to do, have their speeches and all that. Of course, the politicians would have all been out there that day, as they did last year. They parade out with all their minion around them, their press people, and you can't get close to them. Oh, no, they talk to who they want to talk to, and then they scarper back off and hide in the belly of that evil friggin' palace they've built for themselves. And I found every one of them except Bob Catter completely unapproachable. Oh, well, he wasn't a politician at the time. Craig Kelly was approachable, but he was trying to make friends in the freedom movement. So, yeah, look. So anyway, the farmers decided that, well, the farmers didn't decide, actually. The politicians, who actually are the ones who grant permission for you to hold a protest on the parliamentary lawns, withdrew their permission. So that was the end of the Reckless Renewable rally. You have to have a permit if you're going to have a rally on that piece of grass in front of their evil palace. So you don't need a permit to go and have a picnic in the park. And that's what we're doing. We look forward to seeing you with a picnic in the park. The politicians were very upset that they were going to get indicted at their own rally. At least they were smart enough to figure it out before it happened, I guess. Small mercies. For them, at least.
Good lad.
Yeah, go for it.
Isn't interesting. Thank you, Vince. Vince has finally found the video play out button. Good on you, mate. All right. Well, I think we've been going a bit over an hour, haven't we? I can barely read the clock. This is the third live for the day, and I trust you folks are gleaning a little bit of information on all the subjects. Paul Offey this morning from the Supreme Court, the Governor-General's today for the 3-year anniversary of the Canberra Standards, and is the moron who was launching a tirade against Phil, who was speaking at the event this morning during the live, failed to understand and seemed to be getting on a high horse about it. This wasn't an advertised event. This wasn't a promoted event. This wasn't something that we were expecting 1,000 people to or 200 people to. This was nothing of the sort. So we'll play the game, see what happens. Nicola has just replied to me, so I might pop off and go and read that, and we'll see what happens. I did suggest we could possibly work together at some stage if she actually wanted to get some research or proper research done. I think she's going to reject that offer. Okay, I don't mind. I'm just here to help, and that's what we do. We try and help. We try and educate, and we try very hard not to tell lies about events. Very hard. All right, folks, love you and leave you. And tomorrow morning there'll be a couple of lives, I guess. I'll have a chat. If you have questions about what you've seen here tonight, or if you download and read the documents in your home tonight and you have some questions, then please email me, carl@vofhq.com. I'll have those questions ready tomorrow, and I'll try and snavel Pete while we're setting up and see if we can get those questions answered. If you would like that, we'll see if we can make that happen. If not, we'll certainly get him back to answer those questions after tomorrow's live, which will be the big midday event. I dare say that's probably going to go a couple of hours. I don't know how much battery power I've got, so we'll see how we go. But I'll do my best to bring it all to you. If I can't bring it all to you, then www.ibroadcast.au. It will be streamed live from 12 midday Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So look forward to having your company then. And if you are on the road to come and visit us here in Canberra, well, watch out for those dickheads. And as Sunflower says, have a fabulous weekend.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
How many followers? He's left me on. What am I going to